Now, number 5. In around 1996, we began a thing called a Crown by the Sea Refreshment Ministries. That's our hospitality home in St. Pete Beach, Florida, next to the Don Cesar Hotel, which was my grandparents' house. My mom laid hands on the house and said, "Lord, this house belongs to you. Do whatever you want to with it." So from 1996 to 2010, which is 14 years, that house was a mission house. And from time to time, I was up in New Jersey and I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But throughout this period of time, this was a foundational place, a place of meeting and fellowship and baptisms and study and prayer and all kinds of stuff going on in St. Pete Beach, Florida, right on the Gulf of Mexico, in the Tampa Bay area, Florida. Then, in April 2008, the Lakeland Revival started. The Lakeland Revival is a very controversial thing. A fellow named Todd Bentley, and Stephen Strader from Ignited Church in Lakeland started a gathering that got so filled with the Holy Spirit that it just kept going and going and going and going until they moved to like 3 or 4 or 5 different places. And finally, they moved to an airport where they could put up these gigantic inflatable buildings. And there was lots and lots of people coming to Lakeland from around the world and around the country. And many of the people were flying into Tampa, which is the easiest nearby airport. I put up a Craigslist ad and said, if you are coming to the Lakeland Revival and need a ride from the Tampa airport to the revival, we are traveling from our house on St. Pete Beach to Lakeland very frequently, and we can give you a ride. And if you'd like to visit the Florida beaches while you're at the revival, you can come to our house and stay overnight and walk on the beach and jump in the water. And we'll get you back to the meetings because we're going to many of the meetings ourselves. So the Lakeland Revival, this section of time, I met so many new spiritual family that remained spiritual family for years and years and years since 2008. So during the Lakeland Revival, one day we had a bunch of people staying over at the house. And the house was kind of full, and I was at the revival, and this fellow who was staying in my house came up to me and he said, "Hey, there's a guy here who just lost money. He doesn't have any more money to pay for his motel room. He came down here from Indiana, and he needs a place to stay." And I told the guy, "Look, we're pretty full right now." And then the guy he's talking about comes walking up, and I look at him, and he looks so sad. He looks like somebody just shot his cat, and he doesn't know what to do. So I said, "James, get in the van. Come on, get in." So we drove to this guy's motel, the Wire Inn, in Lakeland, Florida, which I drive past frequently nowadays. And I picked up James Stone and all of his stuff. And he stayed at our house for a couple of days. He and my mom really got along. He was calling his Puerto Rican mom in Indiana. He grew up with a Bronx Puerto Rican mom and a Hazard County, Kentucky daddy. In my house in Florida, James Stone had a dream in the middle of the night, and then he had a phone call the next day. The dream, a waking dream, he was told, go to Central City, Kentucky, and start a drug rehab. Go to Central City, Kentucky, and start a drug rehab. And he was very troubled by it. It was a very strange thing. The next day, he got a phone call from an old friend of his who he actually used to deal drugs with. She called him, but not in an ordinary way. She tried to find him and could not find him. She found where his mother lived and went to his mother's house and says, "I really want to talk to James." She says, oh, he's staying in St. Pete Beach, Florida. He's staying in Pete Beach, Florida. Here, I got the number. We talked to him. So this lady called James Stone from his mom's house after finding and walking to his mom's house. And this is what she said to him. I've been off of drugs for a while. My grandmother got in touch with me and she said she wants to leave me her home, which is like a big house, a bed and breakfast. And she said, I would like to turn my grandmom's house into like a halfway house for people like you and I who used to be on drugs, a place where they can kind of get clean and take care of each other. And he says, wow, I had a dream just last night. Just last night I had this dream, go to Central City, Kentucky and start a drug rehab. Well, this lady who was calling, the house that she was talking about, was somewhere in Muhlenberg County near Central City, Kentucky. So James is so excited. He's like, whoa, this is God. Whoa, what's going on? Now, my mother, who is currently in New Jersey, just because there's family things going on in New Jersey, she's in New Jersey. And we call and we let her know about this, and she starts praying. Then he gets a call back from the lady who had called him the next day, and she says, look, I'm not up for all this Jesus and God stuff. She said, you know, I called you up, but like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to talk about this. So basically, he got a dream, he got a phone call, and then the phone call invitation went away. So we called my mom back because she had been through many situations. She had sponsored 150 Vietnamese, Cambodian, Hmong, Laotian, and Southeast Vietnamese people in the 70s and 80s, and she had had a bunch of miracles happen to her because she was living by courage, by faith. And she said, we all agreed, listen, the calling to go to Central City, Kentucky, and this dream and this phone call, even if the girl is backing out and the location's backing out, this is still God, and we need to find out what's going on. So the next thing is a drive by faith with no gas. Mom said, look, this kind of stuff used to happen to us when we were helping out with the refugees and there were all these impossible situations. You guys need to go to Central City, Kentucky. This is God talking.